I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power, and coming up next on WAYO Rochester's The Sound of Tomorrow, where we've got a little bit of follow-up. We're going to be talking about some hot picks. We've got gay stuff, and we're going to get really, really stupid. Like stupider than just our baseline stupid. We're going full-on stupid.
I like gay stuff.
Me too.
Let's do some gay stuff.
Let's do it.
All right.
But first,
Heather, thank you so much for doing that DJ mix last week.
oh, thank you, Ross. You liked it? You're thanking because you liked it, right?
I'm sure it was great. And I will listen. I swear.
No, you won't. When people say they'll listen, what they mean is, I won't listen, but I don't want to hurt your feelings, and also I don't want you to get mad at me.
Yes, that exactly.
It's fine. I'm used to it.
But still, thank you. It was great to not have to interrupt my Lupercalia festivities to pre-record.
Lupercalia? Is that what you call Valentine's Day? Because Valentine's Day would have been our pre-recording day last week.
Oh, Heather. Heather. I know. Simple you with your little Valentine's Day, the most commercial of holidays, commoditizing love in a neat heart-shaped package. I know you love your bonbons and your red roses and your sappy little love songs.
You really didn't listen to my mix last week. And also, I do not eat bonbons. To quote John Hodgman, I don't have a sweet tooth. I have an alcohol molar.
Sure you do. The point is, those of us in the know throw Valentine's Day out the window entirely, and mostly because February 13th through 15th, it is Lupercalia.
Lupercalia, you keep saying... Oh, wait. I think I saw a meme about that. It's some kind of Roman festival that people make memes about now.
Well, that and the long and short of it is, Lupercalia is, like you say, an ancient Roman festival, and it's basically a 3-day festival to ward off evil spirits and also infertility.
Infertility?
And evil spirits, Heather. We must honor the she-wolf and pay tribute to Lupercus.
Lupercus?
The Roman god of fertility.
There you go with the fertility stuff again. Geez, I thought you and Mike didn't want kids.
Oh my God, we don't. Woo. But think of the evil spirits, Heather. And also, Lupercalia is just a ton of fun.
Oh, really? But wait, I think I saw a thing on NPR about this too. Something bad. Like, animal sacrifices are part of this festival?
Well, I mean, of course, back in the day, like the OG Lupercaliites, they did things a little differently.
Well, I just found the article, and it says the men sacrificed a goat and a dog and then whipped women with the hides of the animals they had just slain.
Well, yes.
You sacrificed a goat and a dog?
Okay, this is pretty precious coming from the woman whose Mary Lewid is a real horse skull.
My Mary Lewid is a vintage horse skull, and you know it. That skull has been a skull for longer than I've been anything. You sacrificed animals last weekend?
Oh my God, you're always reading NPR and getting so worked up. No, Heather, I'll have you know, every year, right after Saturnalia, Mike and I get to work making vegan models of the he-goat and dog we're going to sacrifice. In quotes there. As you know, we're actually pretty good at props and costumes, so the sacrifice, again in quotes, is pretty realistic, but no animals were harmed. You know we wouldn't do that. Like, come on.
Oh, that does make sense. It doesn't sound like you. But it doesn't matter if the dog is a boy or a girl?
Nah, my boy Lupercus doesn't care.
Well, what about whipping the women with the hides?
Vegan hides are better than animal hides, Heather. Even more in those fertility things.
Again with the fertility. But the women?
Okay, you know what? It's like a neighborhood thing. Henrietta really turns out for Lupercalia. Though the key party aspect of it is, it's harder to navigate during COVID times. And the hide strips have to be really, really long for social distancing, and you got to have a really good sort of whip arm.
I guess.
And Heather, OMGP, the Vestal versions just go wild for my salted meal cakes.
I like salted meal cakes.
I know you do.
And everybody everybody at NPR says that everyone at Lupercalia is naked and drunk.
Which is totally true. We definitely were all very, 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 what's more very than very naked and very, even more than that, drunk. But it was, so it was cold though. It was so like extremely cold. And I know how you hate to be cold.
I could have met a Lupercalia boyfriend.
Oh, Heather, no. It was so very cold. And you have to be more naked than you're going to get in that kind of
That's
weather.
true.
So,
I like to
I
be
mean,
drunk.
it's a limited, yeah, it's a, there are limits to your nakedness, and
Yeah.
they're not even,
It's true.
they're not even going to let you in the door in that coat. So,
Layers are key.
right. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. That's how I talk now. Hey, everybody. I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zakowski, the babe with the power.
these are
This
these
is
are
bad. Welcome back to the Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO LP Rochester.
those voices are offensive and bad. Are we allowed to do like Southern accents? Is that
I think
I
we
don't know.
are, yeah.
Okay.
Because we live in the US. I think we're
Well,
allowed to.
that's true.
Yeah.
And we do come from sort of
Yeah.
trashy stock. So I guess
Right.
it's sort of
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pretty darn close to where my folks come from. People talk with that rural accent. So I think I am allowed to do that.
Which is weird
It's
because
so
that is
weird.
so fake too. That is so, that's
That's
so
what
fake.
people say. Yeah. That's
Because there's no way people in upstate New York talk like this, and just because the natural and that's where the family come from, blah blah blah. There is zero
I
way.
I feel like it hasn't been all that long since somebody made me aware that that's an affectation.
Total affectation.
Yeah, I think I just thought like it makes no sense to me. I don't know. You just get out in rural areas and suddenly there's some kind of New York State Southern accent. So that was me being a dum dum.
There's a whole thing about that. There was a whole thing about that, and I'm not equipped to talk about it right now. But there's a whole thing about, and it ties in with like country music and all this stuff. A lot of the stuff that we associate as rural is less rural than like non-rural, or I mean, I guess it's still rural, but southern. A lot of the things we associate with southern rural are more like affectations of
Okay.
northern, either northern rural or northern. A lot of it's northern suburban. Like a lot of the stuff that has to do with country music and things like that, a lot of it is like people left rural areas and then like generations later decided like oh, we should be, we're country folk. It's like it's a bit like, and I'm not trying to put down a whole, music genre or anything like that, or anybody who has whatever accent they happen to have, but I think it's a little like, people want to have like Cherokee in their bloodline, things like that. It's
Oh,
sort of about where you think your people came from and where you kind of like the
okay.
idea of your people coming from, maybe more so than although I mean, I guess once an accent's been around in an area for a couple generations, I guess it doesn't really matter who started it and decided that that was the right accent to have, but still, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because and I guess that's it too, because like people in my family, for example, have a bit of that accent.
Mm,
And I don't think they're putting it on. But I guess if somebody does decide like, this is how I'm going to talk, and then it catches on in a town,
yeah,
then people really do genuinely have that accent because it's how they grew up speaking.
right.
Yeah. But so that was a long-winded discussion for, yeah, we're allowed to do that accent.
Okay, good. Just wanted to
That's
check.
for us. That's
Just
for
wanted
us.
to check.
We can put our hands all over it.
That's our thing. I like it.
So, Ross, I have a little follow-up from our last episode.
Okay,
I have a couple things.
I can't
Um,
wait.
which do you want first, Cat News or VC Andrews?
Um, let's do
You're
VC
good.
Andrews.
All right. So last time we got together, I had this new book that I hadn't started yet, "The Woman Beyond the Attic: The VC Andrews
Oh,
Story"
right.
by Andrew Niederman.
That we talked
And
about for like 40 minutes, despite you not having read it.
yeah, Um, but I was really excited to get into it, and I need to do an update. I looked up the title again before I started reading it because I
Hmm.
wanted to send the information to someone else who likes VC Andrews. And every single review I found was like, horribly written, awful book, don't waste your time. All the information can be found somewhere else. He just keeps rehashing the same thing over and over and over. And I was like, oh, it's a shame. But I'm here to tell you it's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. Uh I I have now set the book aside in favor of the book I will be naming for my hot pick a little later in the show. But the book was absolutely worth my price of admission because here's something that I never knew about VC Andrews.
Okay.
When she was a kid, she lived in Rochester, New York,
I didn't know that.
like 10 minutes away from here. And in the book, they give the exact address.
Oh, is it a
And
place you can visit?
yes,
Is it like,
it's,
is it extant?
yeah, it is. And I'm positive by the looks of it, it's the house she grew up in.
Okay.
And it's
And
about,
she's dead, right?
she's dead.
Okay.
Yeah, she's been dead since the eight, 80s. He said it
Oh,
enough
okay.
in the book, I really should know.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it was so exciting because I didn't know that there was a Rochester connection at all. And then
Yeah.
being able to just go online and look up a Google Street View of the house that she lived in.
Yeah. We should take
It,
a we should go to a we should make a pilgrimage.
I'm going to. I'm definitely going to next time I'm just out and have some time to spend because it's quite close. I really want to share the exact address, but I don't feel right about doing it on air because I people live there,
Oh yeah.
like probably just in a normal family, and I feel like I'd be somehow doxing them, and I feel like the book kind of doxed them.
Okay.
But it's horribly written, so maybe not a lot of people will read it. But if you want to know the exact address where VC Andrews lived when she lived in Rochester, New York, drop me a line at jimmyspaceboy@gmail.com, and we can all just take a little caravan over there.
I'm so sorry about your weird VC Andrews book that you were so excited about.
I know it's disappointing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I learned this one fun fact to make up for like it was on the expensive side. Like it's a hardcover and it was over
Yeah.
20 bucks,
Okay.
which that's money, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's real money. So at least I got this street address and I can
Yeah.
go and just drive by and not create any problems for the people who live in that house now.
There's always weird interesting stuff with Rochester, and I feel like I'm still like some days I feel like we're a small town with two things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we have Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, and that's it. And that's great. Those are fine. That's all you need. But then, you know, there's stuff like I knew that um I knew that Cab Calloway grew up around Rochester.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of forgot it. So I was watching a movie with Cab Calloway and I was like, wait a minute, what do I know about Cab Calloway? And I was
Rochester.
like, oh, I looked it up and I was like, oh, he grew up around Rochester. And but I didn't know that there was a plaque in a
There is.
park in
It's so
Swilberg
close to here.
that I didn't know. No, you say that, but like so our friend, our one of our good friends who lived in Swilberg for like her entire life until very recently didn't really wasn't 100% sure where this park was either, which is like so Swilberg's this neighborhood in the city of Rochester that's pretty contained, right?
Yeah, very.
So there's this weird park with a plaque for Cab Calloway that looks like a nice park that
It's small. It's so small though. You can call it a park, but you could have a small group picnic there.
okay. That's all you need though.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
I
guess there's
know I do know exactly where it is, but you're right. I don't know how I know.
yeah.
Decades ago somebody was like, "Oh, we've got to go to the Cab Calloway Memorial." And I was like, "The what?"
Cuz I guess the house is no longer there. So
Right.
um and I think the house wherever he moved when they left I think he was here till he was like 10 or 11 or something like that. And the house that he grew up in after that as a teenager, which I forget where that is, has also been demolished. So it's not like so Cab Calloway tourism is in a troubled state.
Well, you can come to Rochester, you can see that plaque.
Right.
I have been known to take people who visited Rochester to see that plaque.
Sure.
You can go to the historical cemeteries. The other thing, See, that's another thing about this VC Andrews book. It wasn't a total wash. It was very, very interesting to hear the author talking about Rochester, back in, before the Depression,
Mhm.
when VC Andrews lived here, and when it was like a thriving metropolitan boomtown
Yeah.
and super rich, and
Yeah.
like the author is saying how it must have been astounding for VC Andrews to move to such a big town with all the modern conveniences. And I'm like, are we talking about the same
Rochester?
Rochester? But we are. And then he mentions she was in school in Rochester and Frank Lloyd Wright came to school.
I even in
And
the 60s there was a documentary, and it was about the civil rights movement era in Rochester. But some of the context and some of part of the reason that, not that you need this exact element, but part of the reason that it was extra heated in Rochester, I don't know if it was extra heated, but one of the reasons why it was particularly heated in Rochester, or heated at all in Rochester, was there was such a rich white, there was the city was such a rich white, like, money haven, which is not how I think of Rochester at all. And there was a book written, which Mike had a copy from his parents, called Smugtown, because that
yes,
was like the novel about Rochester, because
I'm aware of
Rochester was
that.
so rich and um white, mostly white,
Yes,
and there was so much money in, not even in the sub I mean, like, now there's money in the suburbs, in
right.
some of the suburb, depending on the suburb, of
Yeah,
course.
depending on the suburb.
But very much very much depending on the suburb. But you don't think of the city as being a place of rich people at all,
No, but we
except
are
those.
still smug. We
We are
kept
still.
the smug. We don't have the money anymore, but we have
That's
the
true.
smug.
But I mean, that was so fascinating, because I don't have family from here or anything like that, so I don't have any connection to that history. So the idea that Rochester, which I think of as, like, I don't know, Detroit East, I guess. I mean, we're a little better off than that, but I mean, it's a lot of business, once big businesses that are no longer things, and factories that are no longer things. And, it's a city that tries its best, God bless its heart, but doesn't, it's struggle. It's a struggling, like a lot of mid-sized cities anywhere in America at this point. But, um, I certainly don't think of it as this, like, smug haven of people in top hats going around with all their
I
money and
know.
walking through downtown with their fancy whatever you had in the 60s. I don't know what I don't know what
Yeah.
signifiers of fancy were in the 60s, but
It is weird. It's definitely just so interesting to think about.
yeah.
But yeah, the whole Frank Lloyd Wright thing. And then I forget we have a Frank Lloyd Wright house here in the city,
Yeah.
which I've also
Yeah.
driven by.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, and that's the thing of Rochester, probably Rochester. Rochester. I'm losing my voice. Rochester probably has a little more than, and maybe it's because of that moneyed history, and also, the history of sort of the women's rights movement that relates to here. And I think most of our association with the civil rights movement in particular is sort of bad history. But
Mm,
I mean, at least not bad that the civil rights movement, not bad that there were, uprisings and things, but bad in the sense of, it wasn't a it wasn't a happy history. It was a history of people being really oppressed, and then justifiably freaking out about it.
mhm.
And, a lot of the same things we see today in terms
Yeah.
of police brutality and all that sort of stuff. So the civil rights, so that stuff's not so great. But as far as, Frederick Douglass and blah blah blah, there is a history related to Black history here as well. So
Hmm.
I think, Rochester's got a surprisingly rich history. And I guess when you live in a place, you don't always remember that about
Right.
where you live.
Yeah, I think that's it too. It's kind of like if you live in LA, you probably never go to the beach.
Right.
But so
The
that
one
that
thing the
was
one thing LA has is the beach.
the beach. But so that was the VC Andrews update.
All right.
And the cat news is, remember how I was going to take Nigel to the groomer?
Okay.
We went. It was an adventure. I am slightly embarrassed about this. I got so worked up that I started crying that I had to leave him, which was not great. Like full on meltdown in the car, not good.
Wow. Okay.
But everything went great. The groomer was great. She said that he yelled at her a little bit,
Sure.
but otherwise he was good. He didn't try to snap or anything. And it was kind of terrifying when we got home because I let him out of the carrier, but I didn't pick him up right away because I
Hmm.
figured if he needed to eat or drink or wanted to go use his litter box, I didn't want to be grabbing on him.
Right.
So he tried to walk upstairs and like he's not a one of those clumsy cats usually.
Hmm.
And he went to step on the step and then he like stumbled back down. So I was scared. Like I thought maybe he'd been extremely traumatized, which I think he probably was.
Hmm.
But so I picked him up and held him for a good long while. And then I put him back down and he was able to run upstairs and he ran to this bed that he has underneath my bedside table
Hmm.
and he started howling. It was really, really honestly very scary. So then I ran in and like sat with him for a long time.
Hmm.
And finally, like I was petting him and everything, and he started purring, and I was like, okay, all right, this is good. Well, a couple hours later, that cat was in the best mood I've ever seen him in.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because he's old and he can't groom like he used to, and he hates being groomed. And also, I don't know, like, I don't have the skills to, for example, wash a cat.
Or anything really, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, I wash, I shower daily.
I mean,
My dishes are done.
that's you can do those things.
I do.
Can you do them well?
Yes.
You know. All right. Sure.
But
Only
I,
only you to judge. So I guess I guess as long as you're happy, then that's what matters.
but he, speaking of happy, he seems so happy. I think he feels a lot better. He's got a very unflattering haircut, but he has just been in the greatest mood.
So would you say the moral of this story is if you want to be happy, trim your kitty?
I would definitely never tell just cat owners to trim their cat's hair. That's super
Okay.
duper dangerous. And that was another reason I didn't like because it was either pull his mats or let them be because the vet had told me a number of times like do not ever try to cut those out yourself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because when you pull the mat to cut,
Hmm.
it tense the skin
Yeah.
and it's really easy to nick a fragile elderly cat's side.
Sure.
And apparently like the groomer was also saying that she's seen some not great things on animals that people tried to groom at home.
Yeah.
And so yeah, anytime I hear that somebody was trying to cut the mats out of their cat's coat, I freak out a little bit because it's bad. I don't know if anybody can hear him. He's yowling downstairs right now. He knows that I'm talking about him. Um, but so he's super duper happy, and he got his little nails done, and he's so soft.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really really good. And even though his haircut is unflattering, he's still so handsome.
Well, I'm proud of both of you.
Thank you. We had quite an ordeal. I did feel awfully badly for the groomer that she had to manage my feelings as well as his.
Yeah.
That was uh that was so embarrassing.
Yeah,
But
that's inappropriate is what it is because that's not her job. But
that's yeah, I apologized so many times. I understood that's not her job.
yeah,
I paid her extra. I left a
people
tip.
people are going through enough right now.
So am I.
Yeah.
Cheapers creepers. But so those are my follow-ups.
All right. I like it. I like your follow-ups. I mean, the second one, I guess, the first one's a little sad. The second one is a little turned out well, so that's good.
Yeah, the second one turned out great.
Um, oh, you want to hear something really stupid?
Yeah, I
All
do.
right. So this is, um, you know what? Well, let's do. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm gonna do. Let's talk
Oh.
about. Let's do my gay thing.
Ooh, yeah, let's do some gay things.
Let's do my gay thing. I'm sure you saw this. I sure so anyone if you're this is sort of a RuPaul's Drag Race thing, but it's not like about the show so much, and it's sort of something that was in the news separately. So this is, I guess, a spoiler for RuPaul's Drag Race, but it's not really. That's not really what
Ooh.
it's about, and it's sort of bigger than that. So, I don't. So, are you current with RuPaul's Drag Race, Heather?
I am so current.
Okay, so Jasmine Kennedy,
Yes.
came out as a trans woman on the show, which was it's normally what I mean, what I like about RuPaul's Drag Race lately is that and this is maybe this will sound ignorant, but I sort of like it, is that now that the show has been more open to trans people,
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know or remember, because I don't remember a lot of things about a lot of contestants. I don't necessarily know or remember who's trans and who's cis. And I just sort of
Yes.
watch the show. I don't want to say not caring as though like I don't care about you as a person, but not caring in the sense that like I'm just seeing the people on the screen and interpreting them as people. And
Mhm.
the pronouns and things get so mixed up with drag anyway.
Right.
So I don't want to say it's not significant that someone is trans and on RuPaul's Drag Race, because that's, has not always been a thing.
Right. It
And
definitely hasn't. It's only the past several years. And it's
mhm,
great.
it is great. And it's, so, but like I said, I don't always, I definitely, it will, it will, it will take me a moment sometimes when when someone is, when they're like, oh, and you're trans, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, oh yeah, they're trans,
Yeah.
and again, that I don't know if that's good or bad, but in my brain it's fine, because I'm just sort of looking at the people on the screen, and I don't know, um because they're drag queens, I don't know what, I I figure like neutral pronouns are usually good anyway, because you don't know what pronouns people are using from like 1 minute to the next.
Right.
Some people use, some people's, they sort of change their pronouns when they're in drag versus not in drag. So it's all a big gender blur in a way that I sort of love. But it was a really, I felt so that I'm saying all that to say that it's a little something different to have someone come out as trans on the show in a very, and this was in Untucked
Right.
that this happened. So this was sort of outside of the main show, I guess.
Yeah. But
But
if you're not watching Untucked, you're only getting half the story.
well, and the way I watch it too, because I like DVR it on VH1, and it's just all one. It just tapes it as all one thing, so it's not. There's no distinction.
I buy it on a big box streaming service and I have to buy an extra season. Untucked is its own season.
Wow,
Doesn't that seem rotten?
it does.
I don't care though.
Does.
I love the show, so I'm going to buy it.
I'm so sorry, but you own it forever, and that's nice
I do, and that is nice.
until such a time as licensing changes, and then they say you
Right.
don't own it anymore.
I know. Yeah. Yes,
But
it was very nice.
it was a lovely moment. I mean, it was a very genuine. I mean, I think in the context of a reality show, even sort of coming out as trans is something that you might sort of plan and strategize. And this, which is neither good nor bad. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's whatever, whatever's going to make that work for you is what's important. So I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing, but this seemed very, very sincere and very, very, it was very emotional. It was a
It
really
was.
emotional moment. And I'm not used to having, I guess we get some of those with RuPaul, but this was a very, from a person who in the history of the show so far has been sort of the person that everybody's always telling to shut up. You're like, okay, this now now I want to hear you talk. Like,
Right.
tell me more. So
Yeah, it was
I love
very
that.
sweet. And
Yeah.
something interesting that I don't know if you saw in social media, you know how Bosco was sitting right next to Jasmine
Okay.
and like comforting her and holding her hand and everything. Bosco recently came out on Twitter as trans.
Oh, I did not really see again. I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't. These kids with the long hair, I can't. You can't tell the boys from the girls anymore. Who know? I don't know.
Luckily, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it matters that they're happy and everything, but
Right? I
uh,
know. I hate it when people say like I don't care. It doesn't matter because that's. I mean,
right,
I get what they. Well, I get what they usually mean by that, which is like it doesn't
right,
matter to me one way or the other. It doesn't
yeah,
change how I feel about you, which is how I mean it. But it's hard to like. I always try want to qualify when I say that. Like, it does matter to me, and I do care. It just doesn't matter to me what your gender expression is. It doesn't
yeah,
make me like you or dislike you more or less
right. Like
either
I'm going to
way.
accept it, whatever you tell me it
Right.
is. Like
Right.
that's fine. Just let me know. Keep me posted. But time being a wiggly little concept. As Jasmine was coming out, I was like, oh yeah, and Bosco too. But then I was like, wait, no. This was taped like last year,
Right.
and Bosco just came out.
Well, and that's that's interesting too because I assume that I mean the reality show part of this is which again I this is no there's no shade with this at all. It's totally fine. So I would have to assume that Jasmine Kennedy was sort of sitting on this
I don't know
since
because
the taping for this to be revealed. But I don't either. Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't.
follow her on social media.
It seemed like a big moment, but maybe it's something everybody already knew. I don't know. It was a big moment to me
I have no
because I
idea.
don't pay attention.
I also didn't know that Cornbread was trans.
I don't know if I knew that either. I
Yeah.
also learn things and then forget them.
Well,
So
there's that too. Yeah,
and
because
again,
with
not that that's not important, but like if you were my friend, I wouldn't forget. And if if you're someone I know and you tell
absolutely.
me you're trans, I'm not going to forget that. But
Yeah,
for
if you're
the
on TV, I might
yeah
be like, "Oh, that's right."
yeah
Yeah, because yep, agreed completely. Um, yeah, I am very much up on Drag Race, and oh, Ross, you should be watching UK versus the world.
I know. Well, I'm not.
Oh my gosh, last week the lip sync. I rarely do this because, like, I like the lip sync. It's
Mhm.
good. It's great. Oh my gosh, last week Pangina Heels just she she killed it. She tore that lip sync apart. It was incredible.
Everybody
Like
seemed
just
to like that person.
out. I love her so much. I've been such a big fan. Um she looked great. She danced great. She had a little gimmick that she did, and the song was super catchy.
I like it.
And yeah, I keep rewatching. That's how good it was.
Good. I've heard good things about it, and I just haven't gotten
Yeah.
around to
Yeah.
watching it. But
It's so good. I'm worried that somehow Pangina is going to get sent home pretty soon just because if someone doesn't send her home, she's definitely going to win the whole thing. Like no one can win over her.
right,
So we'll
interesting.
see. But oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
No, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad. There's a lot of again with the RuPaul stuff sort of took over, but I'm glad to see. I'm very happy to see the increased trans representation. I think it's important. I think it's important even in the queer gay community.
Hmm.
Um, we've talked about particularly like with like cis gay men. That's like a whole thing in and of itself. As far as like that's you don't know what you're gonna get with a,
Hmm.
like a white cis gay man. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
And so it's nice to see. It's nice to see that nice to see more trans representation in a way that's sort of friendly and pop culture um and joyful. And then you see the people. I mean, it kills me. And then you still see so much stuff. You see a lot of you see a lot of positive stuff, which is good. But then you always get in all this stuff because there's a new Elliot Page, the actor has a book coming out, has a memoir coming out, which is I don't know if it's about you know I don't know if it's about transitioning specifically, but it's I mean it's called Page Boy, so I assume it's like anyway.
Okay.
This is a trans man actor. And you see people jumping in with this negative stuff, which I'm not even going to repeat. And it's good to see the positive, the negatives there, but you're sort of like, I mean, I guess it's like anything. I mean, this is a special case, but I guess it's like anything where like why I don't understand why people have to I especially with the trans stuff. Just like let's celebrate people. I don't this whole people get so mad because people aren't willing to dance for them anymore. You know what I mean? Like people queer people for so long, for generations at least, and longer depending on where you're talking about, what society, what context, have been willing to, or not been willing to, I mean have been forced to put on a show their entire lives and be miserable,
Mhm.
just to not freak out narrow-minded straight people, like just to make them feel more comfortable, because other like if you weren't throwing your entire life sort of in the gutter and to be miserable your entire life just to make some narrow-minded straight people comfortable, they were going to destroy you. They
Uh-huh.
were going to make sure that you were destroyed. And now that people aren't willing to do that, and people are saying, you know what, I am not going to throw away my entire life just because you're uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And if you think you're going to hurt me, then bring it. And again, they're still, they're still trying. Don't get me wrong, and they're still
Oh,
succeeding in a lot
yeah.
of cases. But it makes people so angry that suddenly people are like, I am not going to dance for you anymore. I'm sorry. We're not going to do it anymore. And it makes people so angry. And you can't even, you wish you could, you wish there were a way to make people to see how stupid,
Yeah.
not just cruel. I mean, it's cruel, obviously, but it's so stupid because who cares? I mean, really,
Right.
like, what does it affect you? And I mean, for me, even in little ways, the more I learn about people and the more I learn about people who aren't like me, like the happier person I am when I'm
Oh,
like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, let's sell. And I still have the stupid little prejudices in my head and things that come up and things that thoughts that pop into my brain. But you know, at the end of the day, it's like I am so happy to be able to celebrate other people that are different from me. And that makes me really happy. It makes me proud of myself. It makes me a little smug about myself.
Uh-huh.
But it makes me happy. Like it just makes me, it's such, the world is so much better for me, I feel like. And I mean, this is not
Yeah.
about me, but I mean, I'm not saying it's all about me, but it makes me happy to be able to appreciate and to just know that there are people in the world that like aren't exactly like me and that I can celebrate and enjoy and appreciate and learn from and get a different experience from, and not just be surrounded by people who are exactly like me all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I find myself to be fascinating,
Right.
but what a terrible, boring world it would be if it were just full of me.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Absolutely. You
I find
specifically.
myself fascinating, but I also get tired of myself. And it's nice that there are people who are different than I am. And I really don't understand it. You mentioned Elliot Page, and I remember specifically someone for demographics, this was a cishet white man,
Hmm.
saying, well, I'm not going to refer to, and then use the wrong pronoun, as
Sure.
he. And I'm like, why not? He's a he now. Well, I'm just not going to. And I'm like, what? Why not? Like, what? It didn't make sense to me. Like, what the, that's the hill you're going to die on?
Yeah.
You can't call a dude he?
Yeah.
Like,
Or just keep his name out of your mouth. I mean,
that
I
too. Like,
guess
how often are we going to be talking about Elliot Page?
how often are you going to be talking to him? In one sense, I mean, that's the other. I'm not saying that that's an acceptable middle ground, but it is a
It's
middle
not, but
ground to be able to say like, okay, well, I don't get it. I don't love it. So I'm just going to, again, you're not hanging out with Elliot Page. You're not
yeah, he's not our
in a,
best friend or something. He's not coming
right,
for dinner. He's a
right,
big famous Hollywood actor. So,
right. So if you absolutely cannot bring yourself, but it's someone you probably don't care about, probably didn't care about before, probably didn't
right.
have much to say about before, probably don't have much to say, apparently don't have much to say about now, or you do. I mean, the other option is just you don't need to go on social media or Facebook or whatever to complain about the fact that this person is a man. Like, I don't like that this person is a man, and I'm going to tell the world.
It's,
It's like, what?
yeah, it's
That I
just
don't care
so,
about.
so weird. I
Just
don't
what a
know.
waste of time and
I
and
don't
spirit.
It takes absolutely nothing off of me to try to remember somebody's pronouns.
Yeah.
Like, it's not hard.
No, it's really not. It's really, really not.
It's so weird, but I did remember that conversation was baffling to me.
Yeah.
Like, well, you should. Well, I'm not. Like, why
Well,
not?
and then there's
What?
also the like, well, I don't care if the police come down and make me. Well, the police are not
Police
making
are
you.
not
We're
going to
just
come
asking you to be a
down.
decent person.
I know. I know.
I'm not going to say thank
Uh,
you when I get my latte at the coffee place.
it's like,
You
okay.
can't make me. It's like, well, I can't and I won't, but it doesn't mean you're not a giant jerk.
Right. It is weird. It's
Yeah.
so weird. Yeah, the whole like, oh, what are they going to do? Arrest me? No,
No,
no.
no, we're just going to think you're a giant jerk.
And then we won't want to hang out with you because we
Right.
don't like spending time with you.
Oh, you're oppressing me because of my beliefs. It's like, no, I just don't like you because you're clearly a
I
jerk and you're
know.
proving it with everything that comes out of your mouth.
I know. I well, you have to hang out with me. No, I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't.
I
I
actually
don't want
don't.
to.
Like,
There's nothing I like about you.
yeah, it's a really, really weird thing.
Um okay, so anti-trans hate is stupid. You want to hear something else stupid?
Yeah, tell
This is
me.
so stupid. This is so stupid. I had some other Black History Month stuff, but then I was like, I don't know. Listen to your I, I think we've done this in the past, and we will do it in the future, no question. Where it's like, oh, here's a cool thing about here's a cool thing about Black people or whatever. We will definitely always do that, but it's Black History Month, so go to your Black friends for that information. There are plenty of Black people who will either passively or actively help educate you. So, but
And
this
there's a
was a
lot of good
stupid.
posting on social media right now.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Don't go to somebody's house and be like, educate me. But you can get a lot of
Yeah, I'm
information
sorry.
just
I
by
heard
like,
that and I was like, no, no. Knock, knock, knock. Hi. Can you educate me,
yeah,
Black friend? Yeah,
don't do
no,
that,
not that
don't
way.
do that. But so it's like terrible, but it's so dumb that it sort of goes. So there's a Montessori school in Newton, Massachusetts. So not the usual suspecty sort of place, not this is not the
No.
deep south or whatever. So a Montessori school and so Montessori, like I sort of knew what this was, but I had to look it up so it's just like a teaching style, and there are Montessori schools, and it's sort of it's not, there's nothing like particularly weird about it in and of itself.
Hmm.
It's just a particular style of teaching that's a little different than standard. um it's I think the idea is you're supposed to like engage kids with their interests more than you're supposed to sort of seek out kids' interests and follow their education that way rather than just do the standard curriculum. So that's
Oh,
the idea. It's not and I guess it's fine. I don't know much about it, but anyway, there's nothing inherently good or bad about it as far as I can tell. But this is a Montessori school in Newton, Massachusetts called I See Kids. So
called I see kids as in the pronoun see.
well, like the letter I and the letter C, and I don't know what they stand for or if it's
Okay.
just cutesy. I
All
don't know.
right.
But
Okay.
so they came up with a this is a mostly this is a school in a largely white area with toddlers in this school, and they decided they wanted to do a Black History Month activity.
No.
And
I
what are you going to do, for Black History Month? What better
I think I heard about
activity
this.
than to put your toddlers in blackface?
Oh
And
no.
they
I
so they I'm laughing about this not because it's not horrible. I'm laughing about it because it's so incredible. It's just so stupid.
Now these
They
kids cannot be politicians.
well, that's it. So they didn't actually paint their faces. They had them like paint. They colored or painted paper plates black, and then put them over their faces to do things. And apparently they did um they took pictures.
This is appalling.
And they did they did a thing where they were like, this is how they would stack people in slave ships.
I
And why I sort of laugh about this and why it's so um why I sort of laugh about this and why it's so, I don't know, why it's so stupid. I think that the teacher thought, and this is why, like, when we talk about like not educating people, when we talk about banning these books, when we talk about let's need critical race theory in our schools, this is why this stuff is so important and ridiculous. I think the teacher thought they were doing a good thing. I think the teacher thought they were really educating kids about Black history.
yeah,
I think like this was, I don't think this was like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't say that for sure, but I don't get my sense is from reading a couple different articles about this that it sounds to me like the teacher was not like, I'm going to, mock Black people. I think the teacher was like, this is a really good way to introduce our white children to what it is to be Black and Black history. Yeah, you're just like, what are you doing? Why are
yeah.
you so stupid? How can you be so stupid, Heather? I'm serious. How can you be that? Like,
I don't
how
know.
that stupid? The school has closed temporarily, and I think the teacher's been let go. They put out a statement that was like one of those. Well, to anyone that was offended, we were just
Oh
trying to do it.
no.
Um,
I don't. Oh, I. So I only saw the smallest thing about this.
and there have been a lot of. I'm getting this primarily from the Root right now, but I've read a couple different articles about this. So this is in several different places. If you want to look this up and find more information on this,
Yeah, and I might just to because sometimes I like to look things up just to
sure.
get more info. Yeah, my sense is you're correct that the teacher really was like, this is a good thing. And that's so profoundly misguided.
Yeah. I mean, super dumb. I mean, I just can't
Ah,
even I can't I maybe I mean, am I just too are we just too woke? Is this a thing that the average American would think like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's a good way." I mean,
I
it
don't,
just seems so weird to me that in again in and you can have stereotypes in your head about places. I would not think of Newton, Massachusetts as a place where a school teacher would be like, you know what is a good way to educate for Black History Month? A blackface is absolutely the
yeah.
way to do that.
I, when you said Newton, Massachusetts, I feel like I've been there,
Okay.
but didn't really spend enough time there to get much of a sense. But I don't know. I don't know. I have noticed that like doing this show,
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff that I've come to understand. Like today, I saw an article that I wanted to get excited about California's war on breakfast.
Okay.
But now my brain has been rewired that I'm like, oh, that's they've got to be better than the animals. So California isn't getting pork from these places where they have these like tiny pens for the pigs. There is no war on breakfast. Like I used to get really excited about a war on breakfast,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
whoa, what are we fighting about over breakfast? But my brain now just automatically knows like, oh, there's no war on breakfast.
Right.
So maybe we've been doing this for too long
I
and
don't know. I just feel like
we understand that it's appalling to put children in blackface to teach them about black history.
I just feel
Like it
like I just feel like people know that blackface is bad, and I guess not. And I don't emphasize Massachusetts to say like, oh, of course it's the North, and I'm surprised there's racism in the North. I'm not surprised by that at all. I feel like we're a little better at hiding it in the North. We're a little
yeah.
better about playing the game and pretending we're
Yeah.
not racist and doing things like, oh, I'm not going to put on blackface. Um, in 2022,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems
Yeah,
it
I mean,
seems super duper dumb to me.
it really does. And especially like given the recent, but maybe also this is something that not everybody across the US saw, but the recent, like, look what just surfaced a picture of this political official.
Right?
in blackface at a
Right.
party,
Right.
and then that person having to, apologize for what they'd done and accept and hope for forgiveness. I mean, that was, I thought, national news quite a bit quite recently. So I this this educator, like, admittedly of small children, but I guess I'm obviously a little baffled here. I'm not formulating thoughts very well. Like, I guess I it must be part of how I was raised. You always look to teachers and you go like, oh, "You are the educators. You are the smartest, the best and the brightest, leading and guiding our children." That's not right.
Yeah.
I need to I need to work on that for myself. That's just not the truth. And it never
Yeah.
has been the truth.
Yeah. It's dumb.
So I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have anything else to say
I
about that
don't know.
except it's super dumb. Um,
Yeah.
we have a couple minutes for a couple hot picks. Should we do it?
Oh, yeah, we do. Let's do it.
Okay. First of all, this one comes with an apology because I think I've tweeted about this hot pick and I've spelled it wrong. um, so there is a new show. It is an HBO/HBO streaming show
You're right.
called.
Our hot pick isn't the same.
See, I told you it would not be called the Gilded Age, which I think I tweeted as the Gwilded Age because I'm stupid and I don't know how to spell things. And I was like, "Why are you telling me this is wrong? It's clearly Guilted, but it's not. That's dumb. That's not how you spell guilt at all."
But that's a guild.
It is. It is. But
Yeah.
so this is one of those like historical dramas in New York, and it's one of the it's from the Downton Abbey guy. So that's why I was like, oh, I want to watch this because I like shows about people with nice clothes. And for all my for all my woke liberal cred, I will absolutely watch a show. I will absolutely watch a period piece about rich people with with fancy clothes and fancy houses. It's like it's okay when it's a period piece, I guess, for me because like it's over. I don't have to feel like I don't have to like if it's modern, I feel disgusted. If it's a period piece, I'm like, well, I'm learning, and also I'm fantasizing about living in this house.
And
But
every
so
time you say period piece, I'm like, menstruation documentary?
menstruation documentary, absolutely. But so what I've but what so I liked it for that reason. I was not expecting much other than like some popcorn, but it is a really smart show, and we don't have a lot of time to talk about it. But one of the things, so Julian Fellows, who's the guy who did Downton Abbey, and he usually writes like everything himself, but they wanted to introduce because it's New York, and this is like 1872, 1880, somewhere in there. They wanted to introduce black characters, and the show goes deep into like the black middle class in New York at this time period and has a lot of behind the scenes consultants, people in the writers room, directors, every interview I've read with people on the show, and they've got a podcast. So I'm listening to all these people. They've brought a lot of black people. Not they, I mean, they are the show. I mean, I say they brought them in, but I mean, the show, they are the show. So they brought themselves in or however that works. But it's such a neat there's a lot I like about the show, but this picture of sort of this black middle class in sort of post reconstruction, before, you just don't see this kind of history, right? Like you know I feel like in history we there's slavery,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get a little reconstruction and you see people are sharecroppers, and then maybe you get like the jazz age,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like the civil rights movement. And there are these decades like between Reconstruction and like the Harlem Renaissance that I feel like you never learn anything about, and you never get an image of like, oh, here's some and it's not about like, oh, it was great to be a black person in America, but you never get this image of black people as anything other than sort of sad for
Mm-hmm.
this time period either. So to see like middle class black people doing well in New York City in a historical piece in a good way. Audra McDonald is one of them, who we've learned
Ah.
is I don't know
Yes,
how people explain
her
that to their children when she's been erased from history because her
right.
books have been banned. But
Her biography has been removed from all school libraries.
right. So I don't know what parents do when they see that. If they're watching this show, they have to be like, close your eyes. You must not know about this woman.
Right.
But um, it's so now I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the show. They've got like an official podcast that I'm obsessed with. Now I've got like 3 other podcasts about the Gilded Age in New York that I'm like listening to. So this is my whole world now is Gilded Age New York
Oh, that's
circa
so good.
1880. So that's my whole thing.
I love it. My hot pick of the week is the book that I stopped reading the VC Andrews story for and started reading because it's way much more fun. It's the newest Nnedi Okorafor called Akata Woman.
That is a big book.
It's a big book. It's a great book. It's another like YA type book,
Mhm.
which, I will just chomp through. I did my typical thing that I always do where I really, really enjoyed the one before this that was Akata Witch.
That's like
And
there are like 3 of them, right?
I'm positive I've read them all. You know
Okay.
what? I've also forgotten them all.
Sure.
So I did the thing that I always do where I got really excited. Like I put this on pre-order because I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. I loved the other book or books in this series. And then it arrived and I was like, yes, I'm so excited. And I opened the book and I was like, who?
I know what just
But
happened.
I always do that. But it's great. It's a hugely engaging story. Everything's lovely. I love the characters. I love the plot line. It is for a person of my age, like not too challenging, not too scary. I think it would be a good series for a young person.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I like all of her stuff. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just excited to, especially since I was reading the VC Andrews book and I was so tired. I was like, this is not making me happy at all. I'd like to be happy while I read my book.
I
And
haven't
then I switched over to reading Akata Woman and like I look forward to reading and I take extra naps so that I can lay down with Nigel and read and stuff.
That's nice when you get in the zone where it's not like I've had even with books that I like that I'm enjoying. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not like this isn't like a oh my gosh, I've got to go read this. So it's
Yeah.
nice when you get in that zone. I haven't
Oh,
read
so good.
any Okorafor, and this is not her fault, but she got mad at me on Twitter for something I said that she misinterpreted,
I know. I'm
and it was very
sorry.
upsetting. And I feel like I was definitely misinterpreted. I don't feel like it was my fault really, but it made me very upset. And it's
I know.
not her fault. And I know she's a Black woman science fiction writer who gets all sorts of nonsense all day. So I'm sure she's ready for all sorts of nonsense. So
Yeah,
I don't blame her for misinterpreting something I said. But I was like, no, I
I
really like you,
know.
and now you're mad at me. So it made me upset. So I'm still getting over that. But I
I
will. Don't worry.
know. And I did not forget that when I brought this book as my hot pick. And I didn't mean to like reopen
It's
a
all right.
wound that might have begun to heal.
I'm not triggered. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah. I did have that in mind and I was like, "Oh, but this book is good and I want to talk about it."
Yeah, it's fine. I still like all of her books. So,
Yeah, she's pretty good.
all right, everybody. You know what else we like? Sticking around and listening to more Wayo 104.3 FM with all the good shows coming on later today. You can listen. You should stick around. You've got some music and some other stuff going on. We, on the other hand, will be back next week. I won't because I'm on vacation, but Heather's going to figure out something for you.
Yeah, I'm going to figure out something. Don't know what it's going to be. Don't even know if it's going to be new. Don't count on me for anything, but there will be content.
Hooray!
Ross, why didn't you invite me to your Lupercalia party?
Oh, we just sort of assumed that you had, Valentine's Day plans for the 14th and couldn't make it.
Well, I did, but it was nothing special.
Oh, Heather, do not dismiss your traditional Valentine's Day celebration of splitting a candlelight tin of tuna with your elderly cat Nigel, who is always your Valentine every single year, and then opening the card your dad sent and crying as nothing special. That is a very important ritual for you.
I wish I'd never told you about that.
You didn't even have to tell me. We all just know. Even if I
Stop
didn't know, we'd pretty much figure out that's what you do.
Yeah,
So it's not.
I know. You see right through me.
Not a mystery. Not
It
Agatha
isn't.
Christie up in here. Yeah.